Okay, so today I want to share a few thoughts on how I approach teaching through inquiry-based and cooperative learning. I've actually been working with these approaches for a while now, mainly in the upper primary. But I find that while they offer a lot of value, there are also moments where they can raise important challenges. So let me start with inquiry-based learning. So at its core, inquiry allows students to engage with content in ways that feel personally meaningful. Inquiry-based learning can be defined as a process where students actively explore real-world problems and questions, develop their own understanding, and construct new knowledge through investigation and reflection. In my classroom, this often means beginning with student questions, sometimes generated through visible thinking routines, other times through more structured provocations. For example, before a new unit of inquiry, I'll often use a graphic organizer where students map what they already know and what they're curious about. It's a simple structure, but I found it really helps me to frame the unit around their thinking rather than mine. I think that one of the main advantages of this approach for me is the level of engagement that it creates. When students are driving questions, they tend to show more ownership over their learning. It also gives me insights into what they're actually understanding and not just what they can repeat over and over again. But I've also found that inquiry learning can be demanding to manage, especially when working across a wide range of readiness levels. Without careful scaffolding, it's easy for students to focus on surface level ideas or get lost in areas that don't meaningfully connect to the learning goals. So I've learned to drill in some checkpoints, structured moments for research skills, maybe concept clarification and peer feedback to keep things a bit grounded. For example, I often schedule midpoint reflections where students revisit their original questions and assess whether they're on the right track. I might also run mini lessons on how to evaluate sources or cite evidence properly based on what I see students struggling with. And another thing I do is build in short peer conferences with structured opportunities for students to share what they found and get feedback from their partner. I feel that these types of checkpoints really help bring a bit more direction without taking over the learning. So collaborative learning is another key part of my practice. Students who work together to solve complex problems engage in the course material in a way that's different from how the instructor might present the same concepts. I use cooperative learning regularly, whether it's paired discussions, team projects, or protocols like Think, Pair, Share. One strategy I return to often is using consistent mixed ability groups when students are generating questions or solving open-ended problems. The idea is to create space where students support each other while also being stretched by each other's thinking and building positive group relationships. This collaborative setup brings a lot of benefits, and it creates more opportunities for students to explain their ideas aloud, which deepens their understanding. It also promotes the kinds of interpersonal skills like listening, turn-taking, and compromise that we sometimes take for granted. That being said, collaboration isn't always as smooth as we would like it. One of the issues I still wrestle with is accountability within group tasks. There's always a risk that some student will carry more of the cognitive load, while others remain passive. I've tried a few ways to address this: peer feedback, clear roles, teacher check-ins, but it's definitely something that I continue to monitor and adjust. So sometimes I use individual accountability tools like contribution trackers, where each student documents their input across a project. I've also used group reflection forms at the end of a task where students evaluate how well they work together and identify what could improve the next time. In longer projects, I sometimes include a short individual task at the end to ensure that everyone is processing the content personally, not just relying on group outcome. Across both inquiry and cooperative learning, one thing I've noticed is how important it is to balance structure and flexibility. Too much structure and the learning becomes teacher-led again. Too little, and students may struggle to find any direction. I don't think I've found the perfect balance yet, but I'm learning to read the room a little bit better over time. So overall, I'd say that these approaches align really well with my value of constructivist learning and social cognitive learning, where students build meaning through exploration and interaction. I like to end with this quote. It says that students are more likely to retain knowledge and skills when they are active participants in the learning process. With that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope this reflection has given you a small window into the strategies I'm using and some of the thinking behind them. Cheers.